What's up guys, my name is Ace, and now that I've had a little bit more time to take a better look at what exactly changed and happened with yesterday's update, it was a pretty big mess. It seems like it actually caused more problems than it solved, at least based on what we can see so far. And on top of this, once again, they snuck in some stealth changes without telling us about it, and some of these changes are actually kind of important to know about. Now, I know a lot of you guys that really love this game don't like these negative sorts of videos, but this simply can't be ignored and can't be avoided. I would love to be happy and positive about an amazing update and a big success, but that's just not the reality of what happened with yesterday's update. So, I'm sorry for being negative once again, but I'm just here to cover what happened, and it was objectively a mess yesterday. So let's hop into it. The first big problem, and this is the main one with this update, is for many people after downloading the update, they got an error prompt that said your data is corrupt or didn't download properly. You must reset your rank and unlocks to continue. And then it gave you an option to select yes or no. Now, I was lucky enough to not run into this issue, but I know a ton of my followers did and a ton of other people did. And if you select yes, it would actually reset a bunch of your things. It didn't reset absolutely everything, but it did reset a bunch of things. Now, Infinity Ward's official advice for this is if you get this prompt, just shut the game down and don't do anything. However, I have heard of a workaround. This has worked for several people, so I just wanted to let you guys know if you are just sitting on this screen and you don't know what to do. The thing that has worked for a lot of people to get around this without losing anything is when you first boot the game up and you get the connecting to online services screen, immediately cancel that. So hit circle on PS4 or whatever the cancel button is, and then select the option to play offline. Once you do this, it should then prompt you for additional downloads, and then once you get those downloads, everything should work just fine for you. So that's one workaround, and also Infinity Ward did mention that if you did select yes on this, and your stats and things were reset, they are working for a fix to this, and they will likely be resetting you back to where you were before this update. So if that reset for you, anything you have been doing since that reset will likely be rolled back to where it was previously, which sounds really frustrating, but I mean, at least you'll be getting your stats back if that's something that you want. I don't really know. Overall, a big mess. Infinity Ward is working hard on it, and hopefully they get that sorted out very, very soon, because that's a pretty serious issue to come with an update. Now, moving on to the next thing, this is the Crossbow Challenges not tracking properly for people, and I've been scratching my head trying to figure out what's not working here. First off, something that I totally missed to mention in yesterday's video is with the challenge, you have to be using a reflex sight on a marksman rifle and get 5 kills in 25 matches. Now, a lot of people are saying what you can do is you go into a match, you get your 5 kills with your marksman rifle with a reflex sight on it, and then you just leave the game and it will track. And that would be a great workaround for getting the crossbow as fast as possible. However, in my experience, and it seems like this is happening for a bunch of other people as well, if not everyone, it will count the first time you do that. However, then it gives you a penalty to where it will not count for the next game you play, even if you stay the entire match for the next game and you get your 5 kills and everything. You're not going to get any progress towards a crossbow by doing that. So it looks like it is absolutely in your best interest to actually play the entire game. I've also heard rumors where if you get in the game late, it won't count towards a crossbow challenge, which is a little bit frustrating. One potential workaround I've seen is somebody on Reddit said if you change your camo between every game, then you can just continue to back out after every lobby and it will track just fine. I did try that and that didn't work for me, so it looks like you actually might have to be playing through every single match, getting those minimum 5 kills with a reflex sight on a marksman rifle in order to get the crossbow. Which, I mean, that is understandable. I can get why they wouldn't want people just backing out of matches constantly to get the crossbow as fast as possible. But it would have been nice if there's some sort of a mention of that. But in either case, stick through the entire games if you want that to track properly, and if you left in your previous match, it won't track for your current match. So that's what I've been able to find out about the Crossbow Challenges so far. As for the crossbow itself, just wanted to share a quick opinion before I do a really detailed breakdown of the crossbow in the future. The crossbow is pretty terrible. I think it is absolutely useless as a primary weapon. I think in its current state, it would be well suited to being a secondary weapon, but as a primary, I just don't understand what place this crossbow could possibly have. But that's just my opinion. Like I said, I will get a lot more into detail about the crossbow in the future. But now I want to move on to some stealth changes and also some things that were mentioned in the patch notes that didn't actually change, or they just didn't work the way the patch notes described. The first thing is it was stated in the patch notes that the Ram 7's extended magazine will go from 45 rounds up to 50 rounds with this update. You can see for yourself if you hop in the game right now, it is still 45 rounds for extended mag, so that change didn't go through with this update, although it likely will in the next hotfix or something, I don't know. Additionally, they did mention a reduction to the horizontal recoil on the first few shots with the Scar 17. Now, I finally had time to get in and do some wall tests with this, and it seems like they may not understand the difference between horizontal and vertical, because that is not a change to horizontal recoil. That is absolutely just an overall buff to the recoil with the Scar, which I think is great. It would have just been nice if the patch notes actually correctly labeled what they did to the Scar, because this is nothing like what the patch notes described. As for the next thing that was inaccurately stated in the patch notes, this has to do with the stopping power rounds fix. In the patch notes, it said they fixed stopping power rounds not applying the correct damage boost to headshots. Now, initially reading that, it was great news because there was a really strange bug, which I did mention in my stopping power video from several days ago, where guns like the Odin and the FAL, with stopping power rounds, they gained a one-shot kill potential to the upper torso, and yet they couldn't get a one-shot headshot with stopping power rounds, which just doesn't make any sense, dealing more damage to the torso than you would to the head with those stopping power rounds. So reading the patch notes, it seemed like obviously what they did here is they adjusted it so you could get those one-shot headshots along with the one-shot torso shots with these guns. That would only make sense. Instead, what they actually did here is they just made it so now the FAL and the Odin cannot get a one-shot kill ever with stopping power rounds on a full health enemy. So what this means is stopping power is literally useless now on the Odin as well as the FAL, whereas pre-patch, those were one of the few guns where stopping power rounds were actually worth using. Additionally, I want to mention for all of the other guns that I was able to test so far, stopping power rounds are still having no impact whatsoever on the headshot damage, and therefore I don't understand what they actually meant with these patch notes. If anything, they just broke stopping power rounds even more based on what I can see after testing this. Now, moving on to the next thing that I've been hearing mixed reviews about, this is player collision. They did state in the patch notes that player collision was fixed, so you should no longer be able to like bump your teammates and push them around and stuff. And I've been seeing a ton of people say they didn't actually fix this, I'm still bumping into teammates. Well, I did some testing on this, and it turns out they did actually revert this properly back to where they had it pre-patch. Now, of course, you can still collide with teammates, as you should be colliding with teammates, but now it's like it was before, where you just kind of glance off of them, and also you have no ability to push them. So teammates can't push you, you can't push them, but if you run past a teammate and run directly into them, you just kind of glance off them very slightly and continue along your way. You don't bounce off of them, you don't push them around, you just kind of glance off of them. And that's exactly how it was in this game before launch, and that's exactly how it should be. There should be some collision, otherwise your teammates are just ghosts that you can run straight through, and that just wouldn't make any sense. But now at least you can't be pushing them around, you can't push them and affect their aim or push them off a ledge or anything, and they can't push you. And that's actually good news, and I'm glad that that did actually go through and work properly. Moving on to the next thing, this is a stealth change that was not mentioned at all in the patch notes. They actually made a slight map adjustment on Crash. Now this is something that I initially saw on Reddit from the user Lightshow, and as you can see here in this image, what they did is they raised up this AC unit, or these AC units here, so you have less cover when hiding behind that wall where that new area is on Crash. So you can clearly see it absolutely did change. This was a very obvious change, and yet, like I said, it wasn't mentioned at all in the patch notes, which I find to be ridiculous for a AAA studio. Any changes that impact anything gameplay related should 100% be mentioned in patch notes, and preferably as well, they should be properly mentioned and not some weird vague description that doesn't actually match what they changed. But in the case of this one, they didn't even mention it at all. As for the change itself, I think this is a solid change. This is good. That means that character has less cover when on this wall, and that's a very powerful position, being on that wall. You can just sit there and mount and pick everybody off and completely shut down that entire open area, which is really frustrating, and I don't like that they added that area in the first place. but at least this makes it a little bit less annoying to have that spot there. But at the end of the day, it just annoys me more that they didn't even mention a actual map change that will change how certain situations play out. I think that's ridiculous. Alongside the next big change, and this is another very noticeable gameplay related change. I don't know if this was intended or if this is just a new bug and that's why it wasn't mentioned in the patch notes. But for your field upgrades, playing the objective no longer helps charge your field upgrades. Kills will, but not playing the objective. If you capture a flag in domination, if you pick up tags and kill confirmed, or playing any objective in any game mode, as far as I can tell, this doesn't improve your charge rate at all for your field upgrade. So this was a massive nerf across the board to field upgrades in objective game modes. And I'm really hoping this is just a bug and they end up reverting this, because now getting dead silence, for instance, it's going to take you that much longer. And now there's also less incentive to play the objective. I mean, we already don't have that much incentive because of kill streaks rather than score streaks. But now more than ever, any little bonus that we had before is now being taken away from us for playing the objective, which is just ridiculous. But with that, that's everything that I've noticed so far. I bet there's probably some other stealth changes that happened in the background, but obviously I can't test absolutely everything after an update. If you have noticed something that seems obviously different from before the update, please let me know in the comments down below. But just to close this one out, like I said, I would love to be positive about this update. I'd love to be excited about this update. But this is the first title update we've had in a month from a AAA studio that made $1 billion on this game, and they launched this update with this many bugs, this many issues, as well as changes that simply weren't listed or weren't listed correctly in the patch notes. I don't know what's going on over at Infinity Ward, but based on what we're seeing, it seems like there are some pretty serious issues going on within the studio. I get that the scope of this game is very big, it's complex, there are a lot of moving parts, and I'm sure the individual devs themselves are working hard and trying to get this stuff resolved. My issue at this point is more so, if they're having all these problems, why aren't they just investing more money into this, getting more resources into the game so that they can actually fix all these issues they're having? If they keep this kind of stuff up with future updates, I don't see this game lasting very long. Even a lot of people that have been really defending this game hard for the past few months, I'm seeing a lot of them now start to turn on the game because stuff like this, like I said, it's just unacceptable for a AAA studio with a game that made $1 billion. This isn't an indie studio. This isn't some amateur production. We expect more out of them. And the crazy thing is, this isn't their first game. They've done so much better in the past. A lot of people hated on Infinite Warfare back in the day. And regardless of whether or not you like the setting and the space and the jetpacks and stuff, the fact of the matter is, during the life cycle of that game, the developers did an incredible job with communication and updates and proper patch notes, and actually listening to the community and implementing various features that the community wanted and making changes that the community wanted, or at least trying some things out and meeting in the middle. And that's what's so confusing to me this time around. They are capable of handling things the right way, but it just seems like they're falling apart this year. I don't know what's going on. But that's just my thoughts on this. I'd like to know in the comment section below, what did you guys think of all these stealth changes, inaccurate patch notes, as well as bugs that were introduced with this latest update? Also, like I said, if there's anything else that you're convinced changed that wasn't mentioned in the patch notes, please let me know in the comment section down below. And if I find the time, I'll try and get around to testing as many of those things as possible. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.